Now it is live on YouTube. So let me give you the link. In the chat box, you have the link. So only once the class is finished, you can access the YouTube video, not during the class. So in the last class, we are discussing regarding the rotating machines, isn't it? Actually, we have just started the rotating machines and we discussed different principles based on which the rotating machines are made, are designed. The theories, different theories, what we use for our engineering. One of the theory is Faraday's electromagnetic theorem, Fleming's left-hand rules, right-hand rules, and how the electromagnetic force or torque is generated in any machine. And also another type of torque is called the reluctance torque, how that is also generated in a machine. This thing we discussed in our last class. So students, if you have any doubt, if you have any query regarding the discussion of last day's class, you can ask me right now. So let me know how you are getting the things. Any doubt? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
You don't have any doubt? So that means I will assume
No, sir.
I will assume that you have understood everything, isn't it? Uh, so let me ask you then some question. Should I ask you or you will ask me? Okay, so what is the reluctance? Can anybody tell me what is reluctance? What is reluctance? Will you try? Anybody? Hmm? Aniket, if you are there, you just unmute yourself and tell me what do you mean by reluctance? Very simple question. Aniket. Okay, so he's not there, I think, in front of the device. So Anubhav Rai. Anubhav Rai. You also not there?
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, Anubhav.
Sir,
So can you tell me
HIV,
what is reluctance? Huh?
the reluctance is
Hello?
HI by L. The formula of reluctance is HI by L.
Sir, what is that actually? What is reluctance?
It can be compared with the resistance in an electrical circuit.
But in an electrical circuit, we don't have reluctance. Huh? So where we get the reluctance?
In an electromagnetic circuit.
Anubhav?
In an electromagnetic circuit, we can get
Okay, so
reluctance.
Okay, so in a magnetic circuit, we get the reluctance. So that means the magnetic reluctance is basically the opposing force for the flux.
Yes.
Okay, so when flux tries to flow, so somebody opposes. So that is called the reluctance, isn't it? Very simple question. Okay, so then what is the reluctance torque? What is reluctance torque? So as we discussed, so let me now share my screen. Okay. Okay, so this we discussed in the last class. So how we get the reluctance torque from this reluctance effect. Okay, so the magnetic materials, as you know, the iron is a magnetic material. It's a very good magnetic material, or it is called the ferromagnetic material. So iron generally provides a low reluctance path for flux. So flux can easily flow through the iron. Iron is such a material which provides very low reluctance. So therefore, the flux lines tries to orient themselves through the iron core. So that is how when we keep the iron piece between two magnetic poles, then the flux lines becomes bent to find the low reluctance path. So this is the figure where we can see the how the flux lines are getting bent to maintain the low reluctance path. Just a minute. Can you see the board now?
No, sir.
Now?
Yes.
Okay. But if the flux lines are bent like this, now the flux lines again will try to keep their original shape. So therefore, this particular point will experience some downward force, and this point will experience some upward force. So thereby, this iron piece now will experience a reluctance torque. So that is called the reluctance torque. Now that is not in this position of the this iron bar, because in that case also the flux lines bend, but due to this type of bend, the forces are generated are balanced. So therefore, we don't have any resultant torque. So therefore, we don't have any torque. So this position of the iron bar, we can say is a stable position of iron bar or iron piece. So that means it is very evident from this figure that the reluctance torque depends on the position of the this iron bar. So like in the position A, it has some torque, but in position B, it doesn't have any torque. Okay, so that means the reluctance torque depends on the angle. Okay, so this angle. So reluctance is directly proportional to this angle. So when this angle becomes 0, okay, so there will be no reluctance torque. Is that clear? So that is all about the reluctance torque. Now the question is, then how by this reluctance torque we can rotate a machine continuously? Because once the iron will be at the horizontal position, then there will be no torque. But if it is like this, there will be torque. Okay, so how we can keep on rotating the iron bar? Okay, so now what we can do, if we rotate our North Pole and South Pole, okay, suppose if the North Pole and South Pole we rotate externally, then what will be for this iron bar? So this iron bar will also rotate with this, because always the iron bar will try to keep the stable position. So thereby it will keep rotating with the pole pairs, North Pole and South Pole. So that is how we can get a constant speed or constant rotation of the iron bar. Okay, so this is how. Now you will ask me that why we should rotate the North Pole and South Pole. So that means we are actually giving some energy to rotate the North Pole and South Pole. That is mechanical energy we are giving, and we are getting the mechanical energy. Okay, so later stage we'll see that without actually physically rotating the North Pole and South Pole, only by some electrical means we can rotate the North Pole and South Pole. Okay, so physically that element will not rotate, but will excite the magnetic system such that the North Pole and South Pole will be rotating. Okay, so that will study in later stages, and that is called the rotating magnetic field. So the magnetic field will be rotating, but the physical that structure will not rotate. Okay, so if we have some rotating magnetic field, so we can get this type of by this type of reluctance torque, we can get a constant rotating speed. Okay, so therefore by this reluctance torque, in different type of machines we have torque. Okay, so that means there are two types of that means there are two ways by which we can generate the torque in any electrical machine. The first one I discussed in last class, that is the electromagnetic torque or TE, and this is the another way, that is the reluctance torque. So these are the two ways by which we can get the torque in a machine. So now let us back to our slides. So this definition I already told you in the last class. Now come to the different types of machine which are possible. So am I audible clearly? Jayat?
Yes, sir.
And you can see the PowerPoint slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So There are two types of machine. The first category, rotational and linear. So that means the machine which we generally see is kind of rotational machine where there is some part which is rotating and some part is static. Okay, so this type of machine is called the rotating machine that we are just discussing, where we need the torque. So there the variables are torque, the angular speed, the angular acceleration, etc. Okay, so that is called the rotational or rotating machine. But we have linear machine as well. Linear machine means it will not rotate. The moving part will not rotate. The moving part will move in a linear direction. Okay, so that is called the linear machine. So let us see whether I have any kind of. Okay, so let us see this. Can you see this video?
Yes, sir.
Just check whether you can see the video. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Here we have the stator outside, and stator creates the magnetic field, and inside the rotor, it's not a rotor, we should call it uh, the moving part, which moves in a linear direction. Okay, so this is called a linear machine, where we don't have the rotation of the moving part, we get the linear motion of the moving part. So this type of machine, you can find the application in the high speed trains or maglev trains, which doesn't have any wheel. Okay, so without any wheel, that train can move. Okay, so I think you have understood the difference between the rotating machine and linear machine. So linear machine means will have a static part and a rotating and a moving part, but the moving part doesn't rotate, it only moves in a linear direction. Okay, so the next variation is the cylindrical and spherical. So most of the machine we see is cylindrical in nature. Okay, so that means, let me draw a kind of machine that we generally see. Just a minute. Okay, so generally we saw this type of machine, isn't it? Here the shafts are there. So generally the rotor rotated like this. So this type of structure is basically cylindrical structure, isn't it? Cylindrical structure. But there are spherical machine as well. Spherical machine means, so in cylindrical there are how many dimension? There are two dimension. One is the diameter, another is the length. Okay, so length and diameter, these are the two dimensions for a cylindrical machine. But for spherical machines, only one dimension is enough. Only the diameter is enough. So we'll see some spherical machines which you haven't seen before. So let me see some animation for spherical machine. Let us check me whether I have. Okay, I think I don't have right now. I have it. Okay, so I'll show you that animation later, but so that is generally used. The spherical machines or spherical motors are used in case of robots. In case of robots, we sometimes require some movement in different axis. Okay, so generally the movement as a cylindrical motor gives is basically in a 2 degree of freedom. So if we need some more degrees of, the spherical machines only can give that. Okay, so assume when we are uh, rotating our arm, okay, by using our shoulder, that shoulder has some kind of this joint which moves in any direction. Okay, so that means we can think of a spherical motors is mounted on our shoulder, so like that. So therefore we can move our arm in a different direction, not only in a circle, we can rotate in a sphere. Okay, so just like that. So in case of robotics application, we use the spherical machines. Now another variations are radial flux and axial flux machine. Now when we see, let us go back to this. When we'll study our this rotating machines, you will find that, so this is the rotating machine, and we have two parts rather. It is called, some part which is rotating is called the rotor, and some part which remains static is called the stator. So there are two parts in any rotating machine, is a rotor and the stator. Okay, now between this rotor and stator there is a finite gap. So this gap is called the air gap. That air gap should be finite, otherwise uh, mechanically there will be some problem for rotating. So we need that air gap. Okay, but the problem is air gap, as you know, is not a magnetic material, so it provides very high reluctance path. Okay, now the question is why the flux will flow through this air gap? Because we generally either excite this stator or rotor. When we excite the stator, the flux enters from the stator to rotor like this. Okay, so here in this type of machine, the regular type of machines, generally the flux try to flow in a radial direction. Okay, so the flux tries to flow in a radial direction. So this type of machine therefore is called the radial flux machine. Okay, so this is very common type of machine which we see in our daily life. Okay, so this type of machine is called the radial flux machine. Now what is the other variation? Other variation is the axial flux machine. Now what is that? Here in axial flux machine, uh, the flux will flow in axial direction. So that means, suppose we have a disc, we have another disc here, another disc we have here. Okay, so the flux will flow. So this is, suppose this is the rotor, this is rotating like this, these two are the stators, these two are the stators, and in between you have the rotor, and the stators are fixed with some shaft, and the rotor is rotating, but the flux is flowing in axial direction. So this is how the flux lines are flowing. So this type of flux lines we get in case of axial flux machine. So that is called the axial flux machine. Okay, so that means we have two variations depending on the direction of the flux. We have axial flux and radial flux machine. Okay, so we have this. You see, in the radial variation, the flux flows like this, but in axial variation, the flux flows like this. Okay, this is the direction of the flux, but in the radial, this is the direction of the flux. Now, okay, so there are two parts, as I told you, in any machine. One will be moving part, another is called the static part. For rotating machine, which is cylindrical in nature, we have the static components, which is called the stator. So another component which will be rotating in case of rotating, that is called the rotor. Okay, so this is the mechanical aspect of the machine. In any machine, we need some mechanical which is part which is rotating, that is called the rotor, and which is static is called the stator. Now, from the magnetic aspects, there is a component is called field. What is field? Field is basically is a component which is used in a machine for giving or for providing the magnetic field. Okay, so field in a machine. Have you understood this point? You see, if I go back to our, okay, so this definition, you see, for a machine, what we need, for a machine, we need some energy conversion should take place. That energy conversion which will take place will be either from mechanical to electrical or from electrical to mechanical. But the common thing is the magnetic field, which is which must be there during this energy conversion. Okay, so that is a common thing. So mechanical to electrical or electrical to mechanical energy conversion should take place. Otherwise, it will not be called a machine, electrical machine. But the common thing that should be present always, that is called the magnetic field. Okay, so in any machine, we should have some component which will create this magnetic field, and that is from the this in case of machine nomenclature we call it field. So that means a field is a component inside a electrical machine which provides the magnetic field. Okay, so you just remember these three fingers. So that means the component which is responsible for this index finger is called the field. Okay. Now the component which is responsible for this electrical current carrying, so that means the middle finger, which always directs the direction of the current. Okay, so this component which is responsible for electrical current carrying is called the armature. So this you should remember. So there are from this magnetic aspects there are two components, like from mechanical aspects there are rotor and stator, but from this magnetic aspects there are two components. One is called field, which is responsible for providing the magnetic field inside the machine, and there is another component is called the armature, which is responsible for carrying the electrical current. Okay, so field can be generated either by an electromagnet or by a permanent magnet. Okay, so if the permanent magnet we use, we don't need any sort of coil, because the permanent magnet already has some residual magnetism, a sufficient amount of residual magnetism. So therefore, we do not need any kind of coil or external current. But for electromagnet, we need a ferromagnetic material along with a coil, and we also have to excite the coil by some external current. So then only it will be converted to a magnet. So that type of option is called the electromagnet. So we can either use electromagnet or permanent magnet. So most of the machines use the electromagnet, because permanent magnet has some drawback, or sometime it may be rare. Okay, so it's costly and rare. So therefore, in most of the machines we find in different type of installation is basically the electromagnet. Okay, now as when we use the electromagnet, so as I told you that we need a coil and we need excitation. That means we need some current which will excite the. Okay, so let us draw something here. Okay, let us draw it. Suppose we have a iron piece. Okay, and we have a coil. So by this we can make an electromagnet, you know. But if we don't provide any current, then it will be just an iron bar, iron piece. It will not be a magnet, isn't it? So once we flow some current through this coil, then only the iron bar will behave like a magnet. So this is called the electromagnet. This is called the electromagnet. Okay, so that means for electromagnet we need some coil, as well as we have to flow some current through it. This is called the excitation. So by the means by which we flow the current through it is called the excitation. Excitation. Now this excitation can be DC or can be AC. Okay, so the excitation can be DC or AC. So that actually I was discussing there in the PPT. So the excitation, generally we use the DC excitation for field, and for armature we use generally AC excitation. Okay. Now the types of machine that we'll learn in our curriculum mostly. What are the major machines that we'll learn in our whole curriculum of undergraduates? That is a DC machine, induction machines, and synchronous machines. Now DC machine, what is a DC machine? If we want to define the DC machine, because in later stage you will see that in a DC machine also the inside everything is happening in AC, which is alternating in nature. Okay. Okay, so DC machine which interacts with DC power supplies. So that means inside there can be some alternating things, alternating variables, alternating current, alternating voltage, alternating flux, etc. But ultimately, the external interface, that means the uh, when we connect a DC motor with a power supply, so that power supply should be a DC. And in case of DC generator, the ultimate voltage which we get outside the machine will be direct in nature. That means DC in nature. Okay, so that means the external world DC machine is always DC. Though inside everything is happening is alternating in nature. Okay, so that is the definition of DC machine, the machine which interacts with DC power supplies. Okay. Now, for every machines, we have two types of operation. Okay, so therefore we call it machine, but every machine we can operate this machine as a motor or as a generator. That is if you take a machine, when we operate as a motor, we have to give the power supply and we'll get some mechanical movement out of it. So that will be called a motor. But if I provide some some mechanical power to that machine, and if we get some supply out of it, power supply out of it, then it will be called a generator. So that means every machine either can be operated as motor or can be operated as generator. Okay, so that is the motor generator operation of any machine. So DC machine also can be a motor, which is called DC motor, and a generator, which is called the DC generator. DC motors are very common. I will tell you what are the different applications of DC motors, but the applications of DC generators are very rare nowadays because we do not need DC power supply. And where we need DC power supply, what we do, we rectify our available alternating power supply to DC. So therefore, we do not directly need a DC power supply. Okay. Now field in a stator and armature in a rotor. For this particular DC machine,
Sir,
any doubt?
sir, it is a DC machine, so why in the input there are 3 terminals?
Okay, so good question. Actually, for DC machine, we have different, not 3, it can be more than 3. Actually, there are different coils. As I told you, there are 2 components from magnetic aspect. There are 2 components. One is called the field, another is called the armature. Now you see, the armature anyway should be a coil, isn't it? Because armature is that component of the machine which represents that current carrying conductor. So if it is a current carrying conductor, that means it will have 2 terminals, isn't it? So that means 2 terminals always will require for the armature. So there is another component in a machine which is called field. Now I just told you that in most of the cases we use electromagnetic field. So that means for field also we need another coil. Okay, so for field also we need another coil, and that also will have 2 terminals. So that means we need 4 terminals, isn't it? But sometimes what we do, we short 1 terminals of the armature and 1 terminals of the field. Okay, so that means 1 terminal becomes common So thereby we are having 3 terminals.
Okay, sir.
Is that
Thank
clear?
you. Thank you. Sir.
Okay. And sometimes we use some starting element which is called starter. So it has, sometimes it is called 3-point starter, sometimes it's called 4-point starter. So we can assume that here in the machine they are using some 3-point starter, which have 3 terminals out. Okay. So anyway, have you understood that what is the field and armature? Well, okay, so the field for this type of DC machine, generally the field is mounted on the stator. As I just told you, there for magnetic aspects, so there will be some stator and rotor, and for for mechanical aspects there will be some stator and rotor, and for magnetic aspect there should be some element which is called field, another element will be called the armature. So for DC machine we provide the field in the stator and armature in the rotor. Okay, so we can change this combination. We can also mount the armature on the stator or field on the rotor. So that combination can be varied, can be changed for different type of designs. Okay, but mostly in case of DC machine, common regular DC machine, DC motors or DC generators, the field which is responsible for providing the magnetic field inside the machine is mounted on the stator, and the armature which is responsible for the carrying the actual current, actual amount of current, is mounted on the rotor in most of the applications. So that is the regular case, that is the common one. Okay, so the fourth point is very important. That means though it is a DC machine, but it needs AC to DC or DC to AC conversion. So as I just told you few slides back, that though it is a DC machine, but inside everything is AC. Okay, so that means that current carrying conductor which is placed on the rotor basically carries the alternating current. Okay, so and it requires the alternating current. If it doesn't have this alternating current, then the motor will not rotate or the generator will not generate the voltage. Okay, so that is the compulsory thing. That means there should be some conversion, AC to DC or DC to AC. Generally, we have the first conversion, that means AC to DC in case of DC generator. For DC generator, we need this conversion, AC to DC. So that means we can say a DC generator generates alternating voltage. Okay, so DC generators always generates alternating voltage. But as you know, as it is called a DC machine, so we should have a DC power supply out of it. So therefore, we have to convert this AC supply, which is generated by the armature coil, to DC. So therefore, we need the AC to DC conversion in a DC generator. On the other side, in case of DC motor, we give the DC supply from the external power supply. Okay, but we know in the armature coil, there should be AC. So that means there should be some conversion from DC to AC in a DC motor. So this AC to DC, this conversion is generally called rectification. Isn't it? We call it rectifier, which accomplish this job, we call it rectifier. So let us go back to it. Okay.
Sir,
Follow. Sunchi.
sir, in the slide where the diagram of the motor and the generator that was there. So what are the terms that were given the arrow, means the rotating arrows? There were some terms indicated. So what is that, sir? TL. What is the T suffix L?
Okay. TL is the load torque, and T is the torque which is generated by the machine. Now suppose, omega is the
So-
speed, angular speed.
So why the suffix M is there? Means,
What is the suffix M?
yes,
Omega
sir.
is the motor speed.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
We generally, actually, this picture I have taken from websites, so therefore I have not changed anything. Okay, but generally we write it omega r, rotating speed. But this T, we generally use this T E, that is electromagnetic torque. So let me write here. The thing is like this. It's very simple. Okay, so suppose I have some system which is generating some torque in this direction. We call this TE. Okay, but this TE is always experience some opposing torque, which is called the TL, which is called the load torque. Suppose you are running. Okay, so you don't have anything on your back, so you are just running freely. Now what I am doing, I have kept some bag, this very heavy one, on your back. Now what will happen? Your speed will be reduced suddenly. Then again you will try to achieve the same speed, but now you have to give more power. You have to apply more power. You have to apply more energy to achieve the same speed, isn't it? Are you getting? So that means to achieve the same speed, if you have some load on your back, you have to impart more energy, you have to impart more power. So here also the thing is same. Okay, so always this system will be balanced as per the Newton's law. This rotating system will try to rotate in an equilibrium speed only in case of this is 0, isn't it? So there are two torques. So only this torque balance, this is called the torque balance, when this TE, the TE is generated by the motor, and this TE is the opposing torque. Opposing torque applied by the load, mechanical load. Okay, so is the mechanical load which is giving TL. Now when this balance is there, so either it will be static. So this I am writing from Newton's laws of motion. Okay, so either it will be static, so there can be two options, either it can be static or equilibrium speed, isn't it? So that we can say directly from Newton's laws of motion, isn't it? And what will happen? Can you tell me what will happen if the balance is destroyed? So that means either the TL is more than TE or TE is more than TL. What will happen?
There
you
will
tell
be
me?
some sort of jar.
No,
Sir, there will be some
directly-
acceleration.
Correct, acceleration. Okay, so from directly Newton's laws, we can say that there will be some acceleration, isn't it? Okay, and that acceleration also we can write by Newton laws. What is that equation?
I alpha. We can write the I
Bolo?
alpha. Means torque is equals to moment of inertia into angular acceleration alpha.
Correct. So generally we write what we write. Sum of the force equals to mass into acceleration. isn't it? So that is called a linear case, isn't it? So, but here we are dealing with the rotational case. This we can write for linear machines, but here we have a rotational case. For rotational case, what we should write? We should write the torque, summation of torque will be equals to, we write J instead of I because that I will be confused with our current. So therefore we use the J notation for moment of inertia, and alpha is the angular acceleration. So alpha is angular acceleration.
Sir, we can change the alpha to the linear acceleration also by multiplying it to the radius of the rotor actually.
But here alpha is basically angular acceleration, isn't it? We should not relate with the linear right now because the linear application is different and rotational application is different. So for linear, this is called the angular acceleration. And generally we write this, this is equals to either d omega dt. For this case, we can write d omega m, or we can write d2 okay, so that is called the angular acceleration alpha, and J, as you know, J is the moment of inertia. Now this summation of torque will get from this, or if there is some frictional torque, so that also we have to subtract. So generally what we write, the summation of torque is TE minus TL, that should be there, but sometimes due to the friction, because always there will be some friction due to this bearing and all, and also in a wind environment it is rotating, so there will be some windage as well as some bearing friction that rotor assembly will experience. So therefore there will be some frictional torque which is proportional to the speed. So sometimes we write this B into omega. Okay, so this B is called the frictional coefficient. So that is equals to your J into alpha. So this is the equation generally we write. So this is called the frictional coefficient. Sorry. Frictional coefficient. So this we are writing completely from a mechanical aspect. But you should understand this. Okay. And I know that you understand the mechanics better than the electrical. Okay, isn't it? At least as of now, you understand better the mechanics in a better way compared to the electrical. So therefore, I have written all these mechanical equations from mechanical aspects. Now it is clear.
Is that TL
Okay,
completely
so-
mechanical torque?
TL completely
a-
mechanical torque.
Okay. Thank
So if this belt is not there, you just see the belt is connected with this shaft. If the belt is not there, and the belt will be connected with another device. If the belt is not connected, then almost the TL will be zero. Almost, but not exactly zero, because that dead weight of the dead inertia of the machine itself will give some opposing torque on it. So that will be there. But if the belt is not connected with this generator or motor, sorry, for the motor, then TL will be almost zero, and we call it no load.
Sir, are these belts are called conveyor belts?
Generally conveyor belts, but it is a part of the figure. I cannot say it is connected with any other things, or generally it is called conveyor belts. So I don't know for which type of application this type of these figures have been drawn. I've just collected this figure from website. Okay, so we are discussing this part. So that means you have to understand that there should be a sort of conversion, either AC to DC or DC to AC. For the conversion, we have two options, because the DC machine which we are discussing today is very old one. So almost near about 200 years. Okay, so that origin of a DC machine almost 200 years ago. So there we didn't have any this type of solid state rectifiers which we see nowadays. Okay, solid state rectifiers means using the solid state devices like diode, semiconductor diode, transistor, MOSFET, IGBT, etc., etc. So these things are hardly 50 years old. But the DC machine which we are discussing today is 200 years old. Okay, so that means 200 years back, we should not expect any technology like this. Then how we accomplish this conversion, AC to DC or DC to AC? So that technology is basically using a brush and commutator. So remember these terms, brush and commutator. So this brush and commutator arrangement was used to accomplish the conversion, AC to DC and DC to AC. Okay, so the machine which has this brush commutator is called the brushed DC machine. Okay, so let me write that. So this conversion, either AC to DC or DC to AC, first option using brush and commutator. We'll discuss all these commutator, brush, etc. in machine 1. So don't worry, I will take some classes on that, but not under this basic fundamentals of electrical engineering course, in a different course. So this brush and commutator is used for this energy conversion AC to DC and DC to AC. And the machine which has this combination is called the brushed, BRUSHED, brushed DC machine. And another option we have, because nowadays we are very much advanced in electronic devices, solid state devices, power electronic devices. So we don't need brush and commutator nowadays, because as it is a mechanical thing, so there will be some losses in brush and commutator technology. So therefore nowadays we use the solid state converters. Solid state power electronic converters. Okay, and therefore we call it brushless. Okay, and sometimes it is also called the brushless DC machine or BLDC machine, brushless DC machine. Okay, so therefore we have brushless DC motor, brushless DC generator, etc. So have you understood this point? Why we need this brush and commutator and the solid state devices? So let me go back to the slides. So as I told you, construction is like this. The stator. So let me show this. Okay, so this portion is called the stator. This is the stator, and this is the rotor part. Okay, so this part is rotating, but the outside part is static. So as I told you, the field will be on the stator. So that means this is the field, because this is providing the magnetic field. So this is called the field of the machine. Because from the magnetic aspects, we should have field and armature. So here the field is on the stator. Okay, and armature. So these are called the armature. So we have armature on the rotor. So field on the stator and armature on the rotor. So this is the regular construction of a brushed DC machine. Okay, so this is the regular construction of brushed DC machine, where we have field on the stator and armature on the rotor. Okay, now all these materials are basically iron, but it's not a normal iron. Generally, we use the silicon steel laminations. Okay, so use the silicon steel lamination for this armature. So the material which we use, silicon steel, and it should be laminated. The armature should be laminated. As I told you that armature always carries the alternating current. Okay, so this conductor on the armature is called the armature conductors, always carry the alternating currents. So therefore the armature should be laminated to reduce the eddy current loss. But the stator generally carries the DC current. So here the exciting current which we provide, okay, it is also called the field current, is generally DC in nature. So therefore, generally DC flux flows through it. Okay, so the flux which is flowing through the pole or the field is DC in nature. So therefore, we generally don't laminate the stator. Okay, is that clear? So for stator, we use normal silicon steel. And as you know, there should be some magnetic circuit. So here for the two pole, the magnetic circuit is like this. From the north pole, it will go like this. So this is one magnetic circuit. Another magnetic circuit will be like this. Okay, so through this. So that means for two pole, there will be two magnetic circuits. And very important thing, observe here that the magnetic circuit has the air gap twice. So that means here also the flux has to cross the air gap. Here also we have to, that magnetic flux has to cross the air gap. Here also it has to cross the air gap. So that means the magnetic flux lines has to cross the air gap twice. Why we are saying the magnetic flux? Because of the air gap, because the air gap provides very high reluctance. Otherwise, most of the part of the magnetic circuits are confined within the magnetic material, except these two air gaps, isn't it? So therefore, the flux lines has to cross the air gap twice in any magnetic circuits. So if the number of pole in a DC machine is 2, so that means there will be 2 different magnetic circuits. If the number of poles are 4, then there will be 4 different magnetic circuits. So the number of magnetic circuits depends on the number of poles. So number of poles can vary. Okay, so here for this particular construction, we have shown two-pole machine, two-pole DC machine. There is only one north pole and one south pole. Okay, and you see here this part. Okay, so stator has different part. Like this has written as pole. This part is called pole, and this part is called the yoke. So this part is called the yoke. The outside part is called the yoke, and this part where the field windings are wound is called the pole. So there are two poles, north pole and south pole, and the outside portion is called the yoke. Now yoke also should be made of iron because it helps to complete the magnetic circuit. So magnetic circuit should be complete. Otherwise, the amount of flux will be reduced to a great extent. So if suppose the yoke is made up of a different kind of material like plastics or wood, then the yoke will provide very high reluctance, and therefore that effective flux will be reduced to a great extent. So therefore the yoke is also a part of the magnetic circuits, and therefore it is made up of magnetic material. Okay, so yoke helps in two different ways. One, to complete the magnetic circuits, and number two, it protects the inner parts of the machine. Okay, so that means it has two roles. One is magnetic, and another is mechanical. So mechanically, it protects the inner part of the machine, and magnetically, it helps to complete the magnetic circuits. Okay, so this is all about the construction of a DC machine. And here you can see all the fluxes are radial. So this kind of machine is called the radial flux machine. Okay, I think you will not understand this. How much time is left today? How much time is left?
45 minutes.
15 or 45 minutes. Okay. But I have to discuss other things. Okay, so let me discuss this very important thing. I should not skip this. It will take some time, but okay. So before going to that, are you getting these things? Have you understood all these things I have discussed today? But you should have this type of introductory class. Otherwise, when the machine one will start, you will not understand some of the things. If you don't understand these things, when we'll start the machine one classes, you will not understand most of the things. Okay, so you should have this type of introductory knowledge on machines. So anyway, I will give you all these notes. No question in that. Now let me go back to this slides. Okay. Now you just think, suppose the machine is there, and this is about North Pole and this is South Pole. I am starting my journey. Okay, I have to select the pen, I think. Okay. Suppose I am starting my journey from this point, from here. So this point from where I am starting my journey, I am pointing this point as A. This is my B point. This is my C point. And this is my D point. Okay, so I am starting my journey from A. Then I am moving towards B. Now, when I was at my A position, what type of magnetic flux I will experience? Can you tell me? Okay, suppose I don't have any current in the armature, in the central part. Only I have the North Pole and South Pole. Suppose only I have North Pole and South Pole, and I am moving from A to B. Okay, so when I was at position A, what type of magnetic flux I will experience, or what type of magnetic field I will experience? And when I will reach at the point B, what will be the change? Okay, so Orko Provo is writing that 0, correct? So that means when I am in A, so I will not experience any magnetic flux because I am in a neutral, magnetic neutral. So this you will understand very easily from your basic knowledges of magnetic fields. So this is basically a neutral axis. The axis just I have drawn, the line I have drawn is basically a neutral axis. So that means there the flux I will experience is basically 0. Okay, when I will reach from A to B, then what kind of magnetic flux I will experience? Can you tell me? Okay, so I will experience some maximum flux because under the pole only will experience the maximum flux. So that means you can see from this point to this point is almost the flux remain constant, isn't it? From these two, between these 2 points, the flux remains constant. These points are flux is very less, but this point to this point the flux is very high. Again, this point to this point the flux will be low. Again, this point to this point flux will be low, but again from this point to this point, between these 2 points, again the flux will be high. Though the flux polarity at point B and point D will be different. If I take the B polarity is positive, so we have to take the polarity of D will be negative. If I take the B polarity as positive, so we have to take the D polarity will be negative. But if from this point to this point, these 2 points, if we have positive maximum, we'll have negative maximum under the North Pole. Is that point clear? Okay. Now let me draw. Suppose I am cutting over here, I am making it flat. Okay. So let me draw this. So suppose I am cutting that and making it flat. My this air gap is no longer circular, it becomes a linear one. So that means I can write A point here, then I can write B. This is my C point. This is my D point. This is my D point, and this is my suppose A point. So another A is this. So A, B, C, D, again A. So that means one full rotation is complete. Is that clear? Now, as you have already told me that near about B, I will have some positive maximum flux. So suppose near about B, we will have some positive maximum flux, and near about D, I will have some negative maximum flux. Okay, and rest of there will be very less amount of flux. So have you understood this curve? This is a very important curve. If you don't understand, you will not understand any machine throughout your total curriculum. And I'm just telling you, 60% of our students don't understand this distribution. Is it clear? The curve is clear to you? Some chat. will the flux remain constant in B region? Yes, almost the flux will remain constant if the air gap is constant. If the air gap is not constant, then it can vary slightly. One more chat. Sir, can you please explain again? Okay. So I will explain definitely, but you just try to understand. Suppose I am starting my journey from A, I am reaching to B. Okay, before reaching to the point B itself, I will having this point. I'll be having this point before reaching that B point itself. So there the maximum flux will start. Okay, so from this axis, so this is basically that axis just I'm drawing. This is basically this, where this maximum will start, but then I will reach at the point B. Then up to this axis, that maximum will continue. This maximum will continue. Okay, so this you can say this pole arc. This pole arc tau p is basically this total length. Okay, through which we have the maximum flux. But when we'll move from this point further, then the flux will be reducing. And when we'll reach at the point C, again we'll experience another neutral. So therefore, at C point, we'll have again a zero flux or zero magnetic field. Okay, so after reaching point C, then again we'll reach to this axis. When again, I'm just taking your question. Before that, let me discuss this. From C to when I will reach this axis, again I will experience a positive, a negative maximum flux, and that negative maximum flux will continue for another tau p length, which is called the pole arc. Okay, and when I will depart this point, again that flux will start reducing. Let me see. Can the graph be discontinued anyhow? No, it's not a discontinuous. No practical thing is basically discontinuous. Discontinuous bole practically kichu hoy na. It is all in mathematics, but physics is not a discontinuous. So everywhere we get some continuity. Sir, why A and C will be neutral? Okay, so A and C will be neutral. Why means I don't understand, because any magnetic field will have some neutral, because it is in between the North Pole and South Pole. So between any magnetic magnet has some neutral axis, isn't it? That I think you have studied. Why is the increment from? Okay, so let me take one by one. Okay, so Orko Prabhu is writing, why is the increment of flux from A to B? From A, we are at neutral. From A, when we are at A, we are at magnetic neutral. So we have zero magnetic field. When we have reached to B, so we have under the South Pole. So we'll get maximum amount of flux. What is the question in that? I couldn't understand your question. Decrement. Okay, so I will ask you by unmuting. So let me test Paulomi Dash. What will be the property of the curve A, the maximum value zone? Okay, Orko Prabhu, you unmute yourself and your what is your question exactly?
Sir, sir, my question is, when the flux is increasing from point A to point B, sir, why is the curve not linear? It is somewhat curved, sir.
Yes,
Okay, so
this is
that
my question too.
Okay, so that is that I will I cannot explain right now, but actually that is the practical phenomenon. Here some fringing is occurred. Okay, so but the thing is not a digital. So you are saying it should be like this. It should be like this, isn't it? Okay, so the thing is not like that because some fringing will occur there, though it is the flux, the magnetic pole is not there, but some flux will come beyond that point also due to the magnetic fringing or due to the end effect. বুঝতে পেরেছো? মানে আমরা ধরে নিচ্ছি যে যেখানে ম্যাগনেটিক পোলটা শেষ হয়ে গেল সেখানে তার ফিল্ডটা শেষ হয়ে গেল, ফ্লাক্সটা শেষ হয়ে গেল, কিন্তু তা নয়, ফ্লাক্স উইল কন্টিনিউ ফার্দার ডিউ টু দিস ম্যাগনেটিক ফ্রিঞ্জিং এফেক্ট।
না স্যার, বলছিলাম যে মানে এ থেকে বিতে যখন ফ্লাক্সটা বাড়ছে তখন ওটা মানে লিনিয়ার, মানে স্লোপটা কনস্ট্যান্ট থাকছে না কেন? ওটা তো একটা
স্লোপটা
মানে
কনস্ট্যান্ট থাকবে না, কেননা এটা ড্রাস্টিক্যালি কমে যায় when you will move from these pole tips towards the neutral. That decrease is almost exponential, not linear. Drastically that will change.
ওকে স্যার, ওকে স্যার।
Okay, the change is not linear, change is drastic. That means almost exponentially that will reduce. This reduce is exponential, not linear.
ওকে স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ।
হ্যাঁ, পৌলমী কি বলছিলেন?
স্যার
What is
এটাই
the
আমার
property of
কোশ্চেন
A?
ছিল যে ওই এ থেকে ওই ম্যাক্সিমাম ভ্যালু জোন অব্দি কার্ভের নেচারটা কি রকম হবে, ওটাই আমার কোশ্চেন ছিল, মানে আর কেন হবে?
And that is all, that also depends on the okay, so this type of curve we generally don't expect. We curve ta bhalo hoto if we have a sinusoidal one, because at a later stage I will discuss why we need the sinusoidal thing. Okay,
Okay, sir.
parabolic, no, parabolic bola jay na, it's oitukani curve. Okay, so magnetic flux is 0 at position A and C. এটা আমি বুঝতে পারছি না why you are not getting. Okay, so if we have some magnetic pole, you have lots of discussion with the permanent magnets na. Suppose this is the north pole and south pole, so this will be the neutral axis, isn't it? This is your neutral axis N, this is N. So neutral axis, your field, the flux will be 0, your field or flux, whatever you say, that H will be 0, and here the field will be maximum. So according along the neutral, always you will get the 0 field. So if the field is 0, how will you expect the magnetic flux over there? Okay, parabolic exactly is okay. So we don't want to fit it with any our set geometry. Okay, so we don't try to fit with a parabola or some exponential. Generally we show like this. This is the actual curve. Sometimes it's parabolic, sometimes it's exponential, like that. What is the BR axis? Okay, BR means I don't know, but this is your, okay, so if you want to say this flux density, we can write this flux density or flux, whatever. So this is your flux density or flux axis. Can you tell me what will be there in that x-axis in this curve? Y-axis is flux or flux density. That you have understood. Which angle? Theta, correct. So the angular position, angle means angular position. Actually, I am changing my own angular position. Okay, একটু আগে যেটা বলছিলাম না, so that we are discussing about some alpha. So alpha was d2 theta dt2. So that theta is basically that theta. Okay, so theta is the angular position which is getting changed throughout the air gap periphery. Okay, so that is the theta.
স্যার বি আর ডি তে কার্ভটা মানে ফ্লাক্সটা কনস্ট্যান্ট থাকছে কেন? এই জায়গাটা ঠিক বুঝলাম না।
Okay, suppose এইটা হচ্ছে, suppose this is your pole. এ দেখা যাচ্ছে এটা?
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
I have no more space, so I am drawing here itself. Okay, so suppose this is the surface where you are getting the magnetic flux. Okay, so the magnetic flux is coming like this. Okay, so if this length, suppose this length is Lg, this length is also Lg. Lg is the air gap length. So if this air gap length is uniform all throughout this under the pole face, then the flux will be constant over there.
কিন্তু স্যার
বুঝতে পেরেছো?
এই স্যার পোল
ফ্লাক্সটা
আর্কের
ইউনিফর্মলি
রেডিয়াস।
যাবে।
হ্যাঁ
হ্যাঁ, পোল আর্কের যে রেডিয়াস,
স্যার পোল আর্কের
সেটাই তো
যে
আমি
রেডিয়াস
এঁকেছি এখানে।
আর এই আর্মেচারের
এটাই
যে
তো পোল আর্ক।
রেডিয়াসটা, হ্যাঁ এই দুটো কি সেম হয়?
রেডিয়াস বলছো? আচ্ছা,
হ্যাঁ সেই দুটো তো সেম
না না না
হয়
না,
না।
সেম হয় না তো।
তাহলে কনস্ট্যান্ট থাক, মানে এই গ্যাপটা কনস্ট্যান্ট থাকছে কি করে?
বুঝলাম না,
এয়ার গ্যাপটা
রেডিয়াসের সাথে এটা কি সম্পর্ক? গ্যাপটা কেন কনস্ট্যান্ট থাকবে না? সাপোজ you have a like this and you have another circle like this, so everywhere this gap is constant.
মানে রেডিয়াস অফ কার্ভেচারটা সেম হচ্ছে, মানে পোলটার আর আর্মেচার এই রোটারটার দুটো, এই জন্যই ওটা ডিফারেন্সটা সেম আসছে, মানে ডিসটেন্সটা সেম হচ্ছে।
পোলগুলোকে যতটা সম্ভব কার্ভড করা হয়, মানে এটার সিলিন্ড্রিক্যালটার সাথে পোলগুলো অনেকটাই কার্ভড হয়,
ওই জন্যই ডিফারেন্সটা ডিসটেন্সটা সেম আসছে।
কার্ভড নেই।
না,
সেই
কার্ভ
জন্যই
কি
constant
করা হয়
থাকে।
সেটা বলছি না, আমি এই ফিগারটার কথা বলছি। অ্যাকচুয়ালি ওটা কার্ভ না করা হলে বেটার, সেটা আমি পরে ডিসকাস করব। মানে এই যে ফ্ল্যাটটা কখন পাবো? when this air gap length is almost uniform under the pole face, then only I can expect some constant flux distribution. This type of constant flux distribution will get only in case of the air gap length doesn't change.
Sir,
But we'll see in later case that we'll try to sample this, মানে যাতে এই জায়গাটা আরো বেড়ে যায়, মানে এটা কমান, এটা যাতে ইউনিফর্ম না হয় সেই চেষ্টাই আমরা করব। কেন করব? যাতে এটাকে এই দিকটা কমিয়ে দেওয়া যায়, মানে এটাকে সাইনোসয়েডাল বানানো যায়, সেটা আমরা পরে চেষ্টা করব। We don't expect this type of flux distribution. We expect more sinusoidal distribution. So how to make this distribution very near to sinusoidal? So there are different type of steps that should be incorporated during the design. So that those things we'll discuss in dissipation class. Okay, আর কি বলছিলে বলো? বুঝতে পেরেছি? মানে এইটার জন্য এই পার্টিকুলার কনস্ট্রাকশনটা যেরকম ভাবে এঁকেছে এই ছবিতে, সেখানে আমরা মোটামুটি দেখছি যে the air gap length is uniform all throughout under the pole face. সেই জন্য পোল ফেসের তলায় কিন্তু ফ্লাক্সটা চেঞ্জ করবে না।
আচ্ছা,
because the flux is basically the mmf divided by the reluctance, and reluctance, in this case reluctance is directly proportional to the air gap length. Okay, are you getting?
yes sir, yes.
Okay, so this flux is mmf by reluctance. Reluctance is a function of Lg. So that will be discussed in magnetic circuit. If you have studied the magnetic circuits, or you can do some magnetic circuits problem, because আমার মেশিনের ক্ষেত্রে এই সময় হচ্ছে না, আমি কি করে ম্যাগনেটিক সার্কিট পড়াবো? তোমরা যদি ম্যাগনেটিক সার্কিট পড়ে থাকো তাহলে দেখবে যে air gap length has a vital role of calculating the reluctances. So you may work out some problem from Thereja itself, real Thereja, K Thereja. So there are lots of magnetic circuits problems are discussed. Okay, so this R is directly proportional to Lg. So Lg if doesn't change, the reluctance also will be constant. So therefore এটা কিন্তু এখানে ফ্লাক্সটা কিন্তু কনস্ট্যান্ট থাকবে। আর কি বলছো স্যার? what is the b suffix r? b suffix r কোথায়? b suffix r আমি তো কোথায় b suffix r লিখিনি, এখানে আছে ফিগারে b suffix r?
radial
Okay.
Sir,
magnetic
axis.
Oh, what is the axis actually? This armature axis and this stator axis, rotor axis and stator axis. So BR is the rotor axis and BS is the stator axis. But it should not be used this nomenclature. I don't know this figure also I have taken from website because I don't have time to draw all this. So therefore I've just copied from website. I have pasted it. Okay, but it should be the armature axis and field axis. It should not be the stator axis and rotor axis bole kichu hoy na. It should be the B field BF and B. I don't know what is the B here. He's saying maybe the flux density. Flux density হলে তবু বলা যায় কিন্তু বলা উচিত armature and field, not stator and rotor. It should be called armature field and rotor field. Sorry, stator armature field and field. So better to write like this, not like this. Okay, so this you should write field of the field and field of the armature. FA and FF. What are the start and end point of the coil connected? Means Shushmit, you unmute yourself.
Sir, actually in any coil, sir, where are the start and end point connected? Is it connected to each other?
No. So here you are asking about these 2 points. These
Sir,
2
about
points
any
will be
coil
brought-
inside a motor or anything.
No. So suppose we have a field coil. Okay. So suppose for this south pole, so we have some winding. So that one terminal of that south pole winding will be connected direct to the north pole winding, and one
Sir, actually not that coil,
start
sir,
of
the
this-
coil inside that, sir, the rotor coil.
Okay, so the rotor coil you will not understand right now because the rotor coil is rotating. Okay, so whatever the terminal you will get in the static terminal, you should have some interface between the rotor and stator. Okay, because you see the rotor coil is rotating. So how you will take the connection out of that? If you connect something, so that will be মানে সেটা জড়িয়ে যাবে, তাই না? আমি যদি একটা স্ট্যাটিক কিছু দিয়ে ওটাকে মেজার করতে চেষ্টা করি বা ওটা কানেক্ট করার চেষ্টা করি তাহলে তো ওটা জড়িয়ে যাবে। So that means we should have some proper interface between the rotor conductor and the static rotor terminal. মানে রোটারের যে টার্মিনাল গুলো এক্সটার্নালি আসবে স্ট্যাটিক ইন্টারফেসে, তার সাথে রোটার কন্ডাক্টর গুলোর একটা ইন্টারফেস তৈরি করতে হবে, না হলে কিন্তু ওটা করা যাবে না। বুঝতে পেরেছো? আর রোটার কয়েল গুলো, if you ask the rotor coil, all these rotor coils are connected to each other. Okay, so all this rotor coil is connected to each other, and that is in a particular fashion. Suppose if there are, জানি না তুমি এই কোশ্চেনটা জিজ্ঞেস করছো কিনা, let me explain your. Okay, suppose you have rotor coil like this. Suppose this is one rotor coil. So another rotor coil will start from here itself. Another rotor coil will start from here itself. So like this. Okay, the start of the finish of one rotor coil, from there itself another rotor coil will start. So therefore they are mostly connected in series, but not all the coils are connected in series. Suppose we have 10 coils in a machine. Generally the way they are connected is, this is 1, 2, so they are all connected in series, but not all. Let me draw this. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So another combination we'll have here 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then they will be connected in parallel. So at least there should be 2 parallel paths. Then only you will get the voltage here. Ultimate voltage you will get here. So this is how internally the coils are connected. Okay, so at least there will be 2 parallel circuits. Okay, we cannot connect all these 10 coils. We cannot connect all these 10 coils in series. There should be at least 2 parallel circuits or more than 2. That depend on the coil configuration. That I will discuss in machine 1. Okay, so
Thank you,
if
sir.
okay, so at least 2 means in some there are 2 types of, as you have asked me, that there are 2 types of winding. One is called the wave, another is called the lap. Okay, so in case of wave, the parallel circuit, number of parallel circuit represented by A is always 2. And in case of lap, the A is defined by the number of poles. As you know, the number of poles cannot be less than 2. So therefore, I am just saying that there should be at least 2 magnetic, two parallel paths, because the number of poles either 2 or multiple of 2, isn't it? Like that. So at least the minimum value of A is, both the cases, is 2 only. So it cannot be less than 2. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
So therefore, okay, so therefore this particular distribution was drawn. এখানে আরো ভালো করে আঁকা আছে. In a better way, it has drawn. So you see, this is the distribution I have just drawn. So this is the distribution which I have drawn. So this is basically y-axis is your b or phi, and the x-axis is theta. So this distribution I have drawn. And not only that, that distribution I have drawn only for the field. Only for the field which is mounted on the stator. Okay, but once the armature coil start carrying the current, it will also have its own field. Okay, so that you have understood. Whatever the element is carrying some current, it will produce some magnetic field. Okay, as there is a field coil which is carrying some current, is generating the magnetic field like this. So when there will be some current in the armature conductor, that also will produce some magnetic field, but that is a different shape. That is generally this type of staircase shape or the triangular shape. So this is the armature distribution. This is the armature field distribution, and this is the fielded field distribution. Field distribution. This is the armature field distribution, and this is the resultant distribution. This you will not understand because this needs are almost 2 or 4 hour classes to be discussed. Then only you will understand. It's called the armature reaction. This will be discussed in details in your machine 1 class. At least 4 hour discussion is required for this type of armature reaction. Anyway, I don't know where these animations are. So another thing is there, that is called the 3-phase induction motor. That you have 3-phase induction motor in machine 2. So let me just show something. I don't know I have that or not. Okay. So this is the field coil, top and bottom. Okay, so let me give you a picture of that. So that the top and bottom, these are the coils, field coils, and the rotating coils are basically the armature coils. The armature coils, the ends of the armature coils are connected with the commutator. So commutator is the brown portion which is rotating. Okay, so this is called the commutator, and the, can you see the video?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the brown portion is the commutator. It is generally made of hard drawn copper. And the black, which is the fixed black one, which is connected with the, I don't know you are getting my arrow or not, but the black which is connected with the commutator is called the brush. This brush is not the brush you use in the morning. This brush is made up of carbon. Which form of the carbon? Generally graphite. So generally graphite is used for this brush, যেটা দাঁত মাজলে কালো হয়ে যাবে, সেই জন্য আমরা এই ব্রাশ ইউজ করি না আমাদের ব্রাশিং এর জন্য। Anyway, so this is the construction, and this is only one winding. You see, this is only one coil, and how it is connected with the commutator. So one coil is, two ends are connected with the commutator, and the brushes are left off. It is not connected with the commutator yet. Okay, now you see the brushes are connected with the commutator now. So the magnetic field, because still there is no current in the armature coil, only the magnetic field. The field has some flux. The armature doesn't have any flux, because armature there is no current. Okay. Okay, so now this is basically DC motor, so therefore we are applying some voltage, DC voltage from outside. This is the Lorentz force. It will experience, as I already discussed in the last class, how it is upward and downward direction. You see how the polarity of the coil becomes opposite, and it should be opposite to maintain a constant direction. So have you understood one thing? So when that coil becomes vertical, so the torque is very less. You see? So that means there is a fluctuating torque. Sometimes it is more and sometimes it is less. But if we use multiple coils, then this can be okay. So if we have multiple coil like this, if we have two coils and more than two coils, so this is the armature core, which is made of silicon steel, and that is a shaft. So there is a spring which gives a constant force on that commutator, so that due to the centrifugal force, the brush should not come out. So therefore, it is a spring-loaded brush, and the force is maintained near about 1 kg on the commutator. Though in this figure it is showing that lamination is used for yaw, but that is not generally used. So that these things the shunt series will discuss later. So have you understood this video? So how it is, how the DC motor is operating? Do you have any doubt?
স্যার যখন সার্কিটটা শর্ট হয়ে যাচ্ছে তখন কারেন্টটা কোন ডিরেকশনে যা ফ্লো করছে, মানে ব্রাশ দুটো যখন কমিউটেটর রিং এর মানে দুটো মাঝখানে যখন চলে আসছে দুদিকেই, তখন কারেন্টের ডিরেকশনটা কেমন হচ্ছে?
বলো। Current direction, actually the current. Okay, so let me draw that. Okay. So current generally in a particular coil, the current is, suppose the current is DC, because we have given the DC supply, so the current expected is DC. But the current will be, after some time, the current will be, current will be changing and it will be the negative. Again, the current will be positive like this. So this is how the current will change its polarity. So from plus IDC to minus IDC. And this change in polarity is called the commutation. So this process from changing from plus IDC to minus IDC is called commutation. Is that clear? মানে একটা জায়গা কারেন্ট জিরো হবে।
হ্যাঁ,
তুমি তোমার কোশ্চেন আমি এক্স্যাক্টলি বুঝতে পারলাম না, বাট at some point that current will pass to its zero value, because that it should change its polarity from plus IDC to minus IDC, and that is called the commutation. If there is no commutation, then there will be no torque, as shown in the video that I will share the video, because it is already available in website, but still I will share the video because it is a very nice video where that commutation part is explained very clearly. Okay, so you just try to understand, to get a constant torque, why we need the commutation. If we have a constant current, then the torque will be fluctuating.
So commutation process এর মাধ্যমে
fluctuating torque means
এসি কে ডিসি করা হয় না? কমিউটেশন প্রসেসের মাধ্যমে এসি কে, হ্যাঁ, তাহলে
সেটা বলিনি তো করা হয় না, করা হয় না। কমিউটেশন প্রসেসে এসি থেকে ডিসি করা হয়, that is in case of generator, DC generator. But this video I have shown, that is called DC motor. The DC motor, the same commutator and brass arrangement we use to convert from DC to AC. That is inverter.
Okay, sir.
It is being used as an inverter, not rectifier. In DC generator, the brass commutator arrangement is used for, here I just এখানে আমি করলাম না এটা। So this brass and commutator, either we can have this purpose, or we can have this purpose. So this DC to AC is done in motors, and this is required for generator. Okay, is that clear?
Sir, yes sir.
Don't forget this, because এটা অনেকেরই মাথায় থাকে যে ব্রাশ কমিউটেটর শুধু এসি থেকে ডিসি তৈরি করে in case of generator, but in DC motor that is the most vital part of the commutation is the DC to AC. Okay, and that is called the inverter action.
Yes sir.
এটাকে বলে কমিউটেশন। আর তুমি যেটা বলছো ডিসি টু এসি, দ্যাট ইজ ইন কেস অফ জেনারেটর। if we have a sinusoidal voltage, because in the generator again we'll have the sinusoidal voltage in the armature, so therefore we need the rectification from this. So therefore the brass commutator do like this. So there is another kind of commutation, but that is in generator. This voltage, this is the induced voltage. Okay, so this is generally done in generator and this is generally done in motor. Both is a form of commutation. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any more doubt? What I will do, I will send you some numerical problems, because we have one more class left this week. I think is on Thursday you have your last class by Professor S. Doloy, and that will be your last class, and you can expect your exam, your test on 9th of this month, and the exam will be mostly MCQ based, because that is the only way possible now. Okay, the syllabus is the whole syllabus we have discussed in our whole course. So that means whatever I have discussed, whatever Professor Chakravarti taught, whatever Professor Day taught, everything will be there in the syllabus. And syllabus I mailed you at the very beginning. I'm not audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, somebody is saying that I'm not audible anyway, but syllabus I have already given to you at the very beginning, isn't it, Joy?
Yes, sir. I've sent it.
That is the syllabus. Syllabus is the whole. So I think that will be covered within the next class, and you will have all these things in your tests. So don't worry, because considering this class as
কোশ্চেন কতগুলো আসবে মানে ওইগুলো একটু
সেগুলো এখনো ডিসাইডেড হয়নি, so you can expect maximum 50 questions. Maximum can be 40 or can be 30, but maximum 50 MCQs. But you can expect numerical problems mostly.
স্যার ফুল মার্কস কত সেটাও কি ডিসিশন নেওয়া হয়নি?
না 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 না, ফুল মার্কস ওর কোয়েশ্চেনের উপর নিউমেরিক্যাল প্রবলেমটা কতটা বড় থাকবে তার উপর তার মার্কস ঠিক হবে আর কি, 1 মার্কস or 2 মার্কস or 3 মার্কস।
আচ্ছা
টাইম অলসো will be decided accordingly, কত মার্কস হবে তার উপর। ধরে নাও ম্যাক্সিমাম 2 আওয়ার্স, maximum 2 hours, not more than that. But তোমাদের কেমন লাগলো এই কোর্সটা করে? আমার এটা লাস্ট ক্লাস যদিও।
স্যার ক্যালকুলেটর ইউজ করা যাবে তো?
হ্যাঁ, তুমি তো অফলাইনে বসবে, তুমি যদি ওপেন বুকও পরীক্ষা দাও আমার কিছু বলা থাকবে না তো। দ্যাট ইজ আপ টু ইউ। ইফ ইউ
জয়েন্টের মতো যদি
বলো,
তাহলে জয়েন্টের মতো যদি ক্যালকুলেটর ইউজ না করতে দাও
কিভাবে হয় আমার? না, আমি তো তোমাকে দেখতে পাচ্ছি না তুমি ক্যালকুলেটর ইউজ করছো না কি ইউজ করছো। আমি বলছি তো তুমি নোট খুলেও বসতে পারো। সো দ্যাট কাইন্ড অফ ওপেন বুক এক্সাম।
তাহলে তো পরীক্ষাটা নেওয়ার কোনো মানে হয় না পুরো।
হ্যাঁ, মানে সেরকম কোশ্চেন থাকবে যাতে তুমি মানে ওপেন বুক করলেও তোমাকে সেইভাবে অ্যান্সারটা দিতে হয়। আমরা চেষ্টা করবো সেইভাবে কোশ্চেনটাকে ফ্রেম করতে। এরকম তো বহু ওপেন বুক এক্সাম তো বিদেশে চালুই আছে। তোমাকে 48 ঘন্টা দিলেও তুমি হয়তো তোমার অ্যান্সার বার করতে পারবে না। যদিও অতটা আমরা কিছু টাফ করবো না, ডোন্ট ওয়ারি, কিন্তু চেষ্টা করো যাতে ফেয়ারলি দেওয়া যায়। এটা তোমাদের ব্যাপার, তোমরা কতটা শিখেছো তার ইভ্যালুয়েশন তোমাদের কাছে হবে। আশা করবো তোমরা প্র্যাকটিস করবে, তোমাদের যদি ভালো লেগে থাকে। আর
স্যার রেজাল্টের
যদি
মার্কসের উপরে তো সার্টিফিকেট দেওয়া হবে কিনা ওটা ডিসাইডেড হবে আর কি।
হ্যাঁ না হ্যাঁ সার্টিফিকেট আমরা চেষ্টা করব সবাইকে দেওয়ার। হ্যাঁ তবে
আবার 80% অ্যাটেন্ডেন্সের একটা ব্যাপার আছে।
গ্রেড হয়তো হ্যাঁ সেটা আসলে ব্যাপার আছে। এটা গ্রেডটা একটু ভ্যারি করতে পারে এর উপর। যে তোমার গ্রেড হবে সেরকম সার্টিফিকেটে লেখা থাকবে A+, A, B, B+, লাইক দ্যাট। আর সার্টিফিকেট যারা এক্সামে অ্যাপিয়ার করবে সবাই পাবে সার্টিফিকেট।
স্যার এই ক্লাসের ভিডিওটা কি ইউটিউবে থাকবে না আপনি পরে সরিয়ে দেবেন?
আচ্ছা এটা ইউটিউবে আছে না এখন চলছে তো এটা ইউটিউবে?
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
So let me stop that first. Because okay.